How would you like to achieve your first million? And today we have Joseph as guest, which is the founder of IFGT Coaching and Consulting Business. And he's combining 28 years, you look very young, combining 28 years of career in corporate America of to VP of sales, which have created extensive studies in mindset, and he specialized in rapid business growth. So, Joseph, tell us, what are the 5 steps to make your first million in business?
Welcome to Unstoppable Podcast with Harry Sardinas, inspiring conversations with influential millionaires, investors, thought leaders, entrepreneurs who are making a massive difference with their innovative products and services, and sharing the challenges and wisdom of how they sold their first million.
Absolutely, Harry. And it's great to be here with you and get to share this with you. And so really the first step, and I learned these over a 3-decade period,
Wow.
in order to put these together and develop what's now become known as the SMT method. So I'm going to kind of go through that because that's how I help companies rapidly scale their business, from startup all the way through somebody who's been in business for a while. So the first one I would say is, before we jump in, because we always want to jump in and we got to get going and everything else. Before you do that, stop and develop what the SMT method refers to as a dynamic vision. What is that business? What's the impact you want to have? How do you want to serve? What do you want your clientele to be? What do you want your team to be? And look at all of that stuff, not just from the outside atmosphere of it, but how do you live owning this business? What level of revenue do you want to generate with this business? And the more clarity you can get up front, the easier the pathway will be to go down it. So often we see people who start businesses and they kind of got a half hint of what they want. A lot of times it's just, I want to make money and I don't want to work for somebody else. And they go about it. And then we see a year and a half, 2 years later, the business is fold and, something else. But having that clarity on the front end before we ever take a step into it, it helps so much throughout that process of it. That would be step one.
Next one.
All right. This next step would be, as entrepreneurs, if you look at what entrepreneurship is, I don't know what the Webster definition of it is, but it's really being out there and being in the flow of things, right? But there's so many things to distract potential business owners and people who want to be entrepreneurs that says, we have your pathway to success, right? Do what we did, the cookie cutter, the one size fit all, do things, avoid those. Because in order to be successful as an entrepreneur, your pathway is not going to look like anybody else's pathway did. So again, for me, with the SMT method, what I learned in the process of failing and falling down and following somebody else's plan is I had to get to understand what my plan is. What's my plan as it unfolds to show me how to have the successful business that I get to enjoy today. So I would avoid all the cookie cutter one-on-one type of things, or, the people that come out and say, we have your pathway to success, because they have their pathway to success, but that won't work for me or you. That would be two.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And then, Joseph, what would be the step number 3 then?
I see where you're going with this, Harry. Here's the third one. Expect that you're going to run into roadblocks. Expect that every day is not going to be a bright, shiny day and things like that, that you're going to run into things with a wall. So having that vision that we talked about at the beginning will help you through those times. Because when we're getting through roadblocks, things that are coming up, something can seem like it's a major wall to cross over. But when we have that vision that we're coming from and we can see, now all of a sudden the road bumps versus walls that we're trying to run through. So that would be the third one, is expect you're going to run into blocks, but you can handle there's answers or solutions to every problem. And part of entrepreneurship really is taking those things and turning them into opportunities. And we're all capable of doing that. It's just how we go about it. They can drown some people and they can thrive other people into huge success. So that would be the third step. Expect blocks.
Okay, and then next one, number 4.
Let me guess, Harry. Number 4, right? Here's number 4. I've utilized this to help companies in bankruptcy get back to profitability in record time.
Wow.
Celebrate successes. Celebrate your successes, no matter how small they are. We so often look beyond the successes, and we're focused. Our whole focus is on the roadblocks. Our whole focus is on the things that aren't right. So when I worked for an organization and helped them get back into profitability, what we did is quit focusing on everything going wrong, and we started putting some attention on the things that were going right. As we did that, we started building off of those, and in record time, we had somebody come in and dump $12 million in operations.
Wow.
And overnight take them from a 3-day a month to a 5-day a week operation. So it's really, really important to celebrate the successes as they happen.
And then the last one, what would be the final
last
step?
The last one is to accept help in achieving your success 100%. That you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
You know, iron sharpens iron. We're so often conditioned that we have to figure it out. We got to come up with it. And really, like I said, iron sharpens iron. We're not meant to go it alone, and really we can't. I could not get to this level of business without the help I've had along the way and doing it, and relying on the people I've worked with, working with the coaches and the consultants and places like that I've worked with have helped me to launch into what I do today. That would be the 5th step: is don't try to do it alone. And when I say that, one other caveat to that, Harry, when you're doing it, find somebody who's done it, but don't try to do it their way. Find somebody who can help you find your pathway, mm-hmm. in your success.
To empower you to develop your business. I think that I agree 100%, Joseph. So, Joseph, for some of our listeners, they are already these corporate jobs. They have a big they're getting big salaries, but they actually are dreaming to have your life. They're dreaming to let go this well-paid corporate job and actually start their own business where they can have more freedom and they can take control of their life. So in your experience, how was the transition? Because coming from corporate, even in the previous interview, the guest was sharing that somebody with a really, really high position in corporate have over $1 million in the 90s in the bank accounts, which used to be a lot of money back then. And it went from corporate to business and took her 20 years to get around what it means to become an entrepreneur and to start and grow the business, because there are differences. When you have a corporate job, like you have been VP of sales of corporate America, so you are very, very good at one thing, and they do pay you a lot of money and make you really comfortable that you specialize in this. But now when you're dropping off this and now you started your own business, now you have to learn about a lot of different things that you didn't know. And now you need to start to do things that you don't like. Because when you have your corporate job, your VP is sales, I presume you love sales. So you're doing something that you love and you specialize and you're really good at it. And you make a good living out of this. But now you're in business. The whole dynamic changed completely. So what is the transition or what advice do you have for people listening to us that they are already in corporate America, that they're dreaming to have your life, but still they don't find the last push to go for it?
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, my walk in my life, Harry, has been that. I had a very successful 28-year career up to a vice president of sales, and I resigned from that to walk away and do what I do today.
Why? You're
because
so
I wanted that freedom, because I had the entrepreneur spirit.
You don't need to worry about anybody. Why you do that?
Because I felt trapped in there by the great salary and the benefits and the cars and
it's like a golden cage. It's like a golden cage.
It is. And for some people that works, and that's great. But I wanted more than that. I wanted to develop. I wanted to create. I wanted to help people the way I get to help people today. So I resigned from corporate America. Once we got that business.
You resigned?
Back into profitability, I resigned.
You resigned because usually what happens is that people get laid off. They go to redundancy. And then they say, well, because now I don't have. That's how they started the business. But you actually resigned?
I resigned from
Did
it.
did
And
anyone tell you around your friends that maybe you're a little bit crazy, that you're taking a
oh my
huge
God,
risk?
I actually lost some lifelong friends because they said, "You're crazy, man. You got it. You're there. You've arrived. Why would you want to
Or the
walk away
American
from that
dream?
and start something from scratch?" But it was following my heart. One of the really admiring aspects of an entrepreneur is they have a draw that comes from their heart and soul on wanting to do more, wanting to have a bigger impact, wanting to create whatever it may be that leads to it. And so when I walked off of corporate America, I actually moved from I was in Iowa at the time. I moved down to South Carolina near the mountains where I
Wow,
always
you
wanted to
burned
live.
the boats. You burned
And I
everything.
didn't
You
even
moved town.
I
You quit
did,
the
and I
job.
didn't
That's
even
it. Oh my
I
God.
didn't know anybody down here. And so I had to go about and start figuring out how to build this business that I do. And it looks different today than it started as. But within a year and a half, I was at the same salary level I was at. I was at the same revenue number I was at when I was in
Wow.
corporate America.
That's very
And
impressive.
one of the
Only
when
in a
people
year and a
come to
half.
me
That's very impressive.
And when people come to me, thank you, in corporate America, it's all a blessing. When people come to me from corporate America and they want to do their own thing, what I tell them is we're going to get the clarity, we're going to step into it, everything I've talked about with the 5 steps. But then what we're going to do is we're going to get so busy building and growing the business that you no longer have time to go to the job. And Harry, I have helped clients. One client I had that was working full time in sales, he had a business he was doing on the side, making a couple grand a month on.
Mhm.
I'm here to talk, but so what I told him is we're going to get so busy in your business, you're not going to have time to go to work anymore. So he went from doing a couple $1,000s a month in this business a little over a year later, he was doing like 25 to $30,000 a
I
month.
believe you.
Now, 2 years later, he's doing between $47,000 and $57,000 a week in revenue.
I believe you.
I
Look,
have person after person after person that's been through things
it
like
just
that.
makes sense, because when you think back, you are a VP of sales, and if you think it effectively, you might be thinking, why I should be selling other people's products? I better sell my product and keep all the money for me.
But what happens is it's easier to do that in some ways, but
Yes.
you're trapped in that. You don't get to fully live like
Mhm.
you do being an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
There's parts of you that start dying inside.
Sometimes just because I think as entrepreneurs, there is within ourselves, there is a gene. Is no, it doesn't come from hereditary or something like this, inheritance, but we always have this gene within ourselves that we say we can do better. If when I have a chance, I'm walking away from this. However, all the people are going to business from corporate America with the wrong reasons. They are only listening the good things about being in business, which is you can have as much money that you want, and there is no cap in the money
Freedom.
that you can make, and you have the freedom. However, they go into business, yeah, probably they're used to have a lot of an employee. They have a management position or VP like your position. And but then they come in with this mindset from corporate, which is this is not my job. I just work on this, and there is no such a thing when you are an entrepreneur that this is not my job. Everything is your job. So the change in cultures coming from corporate to have your own startup business, where you actually need to wear the hats and figure out exactly like you did from scratch, from zero in a new city, and you need to start to think about this business, to design your product. Like every out of the 500 millionaires that we interview in this broadcast, nobody, the product that they created was actually what the product the client bought. You have to iterate and iterate until it works. There's a lot of trial and error going there. So, what do you think? What was the biggest challenge from you in your mindset that you brought from corporate America that you have to look into yourself deep and say, okay, I have to make an improvement in the way that I see things, because I'm in completely different ball game. I'm starting from zero, and this is completely different what I'm used to.
Yeah, there was a lot of shifts. Honestly, just to break to resign from the position I had in
Took a
corporate
lot of
America took
courage. A lot of courage.
Well, and it took a lot of
People listening. A lot of people
approach.
listening at the moment. They're the only thing they are thinking. Wow, I wish that I have this courage to bend the boats and do it.
Yeah, it did take a
Unfortunately,
lot of
no.
courage. There was a
Unfortunately,
lot
no.
of fear
The
in that.
majority don't do it. Why?
And
What's the biggest fear?
The fear is, I mean, you're going from something that, you know, I've been at multiple facilities, companies in corporate where I was a vice president and did really well, to stepping out and not having done this before. You
But
know,
people said that might be safety. But if you check, there is no. Yeah, but there is no such a thing as safe when you have a job. You know, safety is create your own job. Yeah,
well,
you
that's
can
what
make
I was
your own
going to
money.
finish.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a perception of safety within corporate positions, but there's not really, because you have a bad quarter and they'll start dropping people. They sell the company. Whatever can happen. When you build your own company, then you truly have control over your destiny. You don't have that when you're working in corporate. That was another draw to me. But when I moved down here and got going with it, you know, you talked about that. You got to wear all the hats. And I'll tell you, one of the scenarios I use that is perfect for this. When I was in corporate America, if I had to be in the office for 2 days in a row after 5 o'clock, man, I was ticked off. I felt cheated. I felt taken advantage of. I was angry. I was this, I was that, everything else, which happens quite often as a VP. Now, I'll come over here and I'll do my, you know, sessions, my client sessions, things like that. I'll talk to people. I'll talk to some new things.
Spend the whole day because you love it, right?
And then at 8, 9 o'clock at night, I'll go over to the other room here and I'll do videoing and I'll do things like that and stuff. And I'll get done at 2, 3 in the morning and I can't sleep because I'm so excited about what I do. That's a huge connection, because yeah, you got to wear hats. One of the things I'll say about that is, to start your business, you have to wear multiple hats, because you can't just hire anybody right off the shoot and things like that. But the quicker you scale, the quicker you can hire people in those positions.
Yeah, and the secret of scaling, Joseph, what I noticed is only one thing: increase your sales. Because when my business, I increase my sales, the magic happened. You know what happened in my business when I increased my sales? I could hire people that they were better than me at everything. To the point one day I arrived to the office and they told me, Harry, go home. We don't need you anymore. We can run this business without you. So the people that joined my organization, they were so good that they actually, and I developed that culture, they had the ability to actually run the business and grow the business, and everything was running in autopilot. Now, this was only possible when I increased my sales. So, Joseph,
absolutely,
what message do you have out there for entrepreneurs that they're not taking sales seriously and they thinking, well, I have other things that I need to worry about in my business, especially when we talk product market fit 0 to 1 million. And also, you hear sometimes entrepreneurs out there that they are uncomfortable to selling. They don't want to sell. They want to pay an agency to do the marketing and sales for them, and they are, and then they wonder why they're not growing, and they want somebody else to do the sales for them, without knowing that if you don't like sales, if you don't know how to sell, if you cannot be in business, and that's the end of it, right?
Every business owner I work with does sales for their organization, and here's why. Because a lot of times it'll be salespeople that'll start a business and they know that end of it. But there's other people that come out of financial or other areas and stuff that haven't been in sales, and they don't like doing sales. They call it a 5,000-pound phone, all that stuff and everything. And I have them still do sales, because even when you're hiring,
they need to understand the basic. Exactly, you need to understand.
You don't know what
it's going to take.
Facing. If you don't know what they're facing out in the field trying to build your business, how can you be helpful to them? Which means, how can you grow your business there? So I have everybody take a part, spend some time in sales, and then we get busy enough to where they can start bringing on salespeople. The gentleman I told you about that went from a couple $1,000s a month to now $57,000 a week. He now has salespeople he brought on and did it and is doing those things. But even for my company, once I started scaling, everybody I hired, like you said that perfect, Harry, because everyone I hired is an expert in the area that they cover, and I'm not.
But if you didn't
So
increase your sales,
right.
how are you going to hire these people?
Yes. And here's one of the things. A lot of people will start business, entrepreneurs, any entrepreneur that wants to start a business and grow up by 15 or 20 or even 25% year over year, go back to corporate because you're not going to make it. You got to be setting your sights on doubling, tripling your revenue growth year over year. And here's one of the clear indicators of an entrepreneur. If you're starting a business and you don't think it's possible to do that, then you're not going to make it. You know,
you already put it on the space. You already put it on the space, right?
Yeah, the people that I help to you know go from that corporate or even put somebody in business that's struggling is what I use as a judgment tool. There is, does this person believe it's possible to 10x, 5x, whatever their business? If they don't believe it, they're never, ever, ever going to achieve it. And if you're not going up as an entrepreneur, then you're going to be going down.
Yeah, that's as it showed in this broadcast. We already interviewed 500 million entrepreneurs. They have been sharing here in this very same broadcast that it's easier to 10x than double X. That makes sense when you have the right mentor and the right coach. But Joseph, why is so much negative connotation about sales among even entrepreneurs and among even society? Whether when there's nothing move until the sales happen. And you see again entrepreneurs that when it comes to sell, well, they don't want to talk about this topic. Okay, I'm gonna hire this Joseph. I don't want to talk to him. I want to know about anything. He will train my team. And I hate sales. I don't like sales. There is a lot of negative connotations regarding sales, right? For somebody asked me in this podcast the other day, do you get angry when you get a cold call? And I said, I'm not. I'm an entrepreneur. How can I be? That the phone call can be maybe intrusive, that maybe they haven't done the prospecting effectively and they didn't know that I'm not interested in this product, and maybe they stopping me and I'm having a bad experience because of this. Yes. However, I'm in business. So they're trying to set the product. Eventually, they're going to learn to prospect better. Eventually, they're going to learn how to ask different questions. It's a better time for you to talk about this. And eventually, they're going to learn. But hey, they're in business trying to make a bucks here. How come as an entrepreneur, they're going to be upset or frustrated about a cold calling? On the other hand, every time that they do a cold calling to me, I pick the phone call and I'm listening very carefully to see how amazing is the script that they're doing it, if I can actually learn something about it. It's same with the TV commercials. So then, Joseph, what is so much negative connotation about sales out there among the entrepreneurs community, among society in general, without is, in my opinion, the only thing that would set you free is the only thing. A lot of people, you find them with PhD, they have read thousands of books. And they always broke. They have money problem. And I'm telling them, look, if you read the book or you learn from Joseph how to develop a product, how to sell, you're going to have another problems in your life, but definitely you're not going to have money problem anymore. So why they prefer to read the whole 10,000 books and to know about everything in the world, and then they always broke, then they cannot make any money, and still refusing to pick one book or to spend some time with you, Joseph, to learn a very, in my opinion, simple skill. I don't think it's that complex, right?
Yeah, well, here's why. It's because of the perception of sales. What people don't realize is if you're living and you're breathing, you're selling. If you're in a relationship, you're selling. If you're, buying anything, you're selling. Anything you do, you're selling. Even our religions and things like that.
To be your product or your idea, but you're always selling.
You are. So, but what people get the perception when you talk sales, because it was always the used car salesman type of mentality is what was posted on sales. And a lot of people are grown up with that. Now, the younger generation doesn't have as much of that and stuff, but it's still, and then the other thing with it is we take it very personal to get a no. And sales puts you on that front line to receive a no. And so taking that personal. So we got to learn ways to maneuver around that.
And then people cannot cope with rejection. They make it personally, right?
Yeah. And sales is just conversations. It's just, is just helping people, with what I do today. And I had to shift it some, because when I came out of corporate, I did sales. I went out and landed 15, 18, $25 million contracts and stuff. So now with what I do, I don't sell at all. What I do is I have this process and I have the results and I have all the stuff I have to go with it and stuff. And so I talk to people and I tell them what I do and how I do it. And if it rings for them, great. And if it doesn't, somebody else, there's somebody else it will for. But we put so much weight on getting the yes. One of the things I tell people I used to do myself, when you're doing the cold calls, I used to play a game and go for 10 no's a day. And I'd call somebody and they go, no. And I would check it up. And then somebody goes, yeah, I'd like to meet with you. And you almost go,
yes,
oh man, that ruins my nose. But it takes anything that takes the weight out of it, takes it, the personal aspect out of it, and understanding.
Because dealing
all
with
you're
the
doing
rejection,
is offering somebody something.
Yeah. Yesterday I was watching the movie, the McDonald's movie, and the story of Ray Kroc. And at the beginning of the movie, he was dealing with a lot of rejection. He's trying to sell this milkshake, and everybody was saying no. And again, you make it, if you don't have the right mindset, if you don't have the right statistic, if you don't have the right, you see, there is something, if you look in Google, you will see that if you talk with 100 people, it's impossible that you will close the 100 people. It doesn't work like this. You will need to know that if you speak with 100 people, depending on your product or services, you will convert at a certain rate that probably will be below 10%, probably below 5%. So with those numbers in mind is when how you take the phone call, or how you create this email, or how you create, of course, can be improved. Yet, if you have someone like Joseph with a lot of experience, years of experience on the field, can he refine your process? Can achieve a better conversion? Of course, yes. However, it's the mindset, Joseph, where it goes into the way. So how you overcome this? How you when you started your business, which is completely different game, because now it's very easy to be VP for the corporate, because you see you're selling somebody else's product, you're selling somebody else, but now you're selling yourself. And a lot of people get really uncomfortable selling their own product. This is a massive thing go there. I know people that they're amazing selling products for other people. When it comes to the product, there is that fear. They want to charge cheap. They don't communicate the value effectively with this blockage. So when do you realize, Joseph, that that you have to work on yourself to clear out all the mess within your mind that we all have when we have businesses? That, okay, this is my product, I'm proud of it, I'm gonna share what is right, and I'm gonna work with people that deserve my product, and definitely it's not gonna be anyone. And actually, I'm going to choose who I work with. So how
that process right there, it's years. It's kind of a learned, and it's really like, somebody selling $2 widgets. The difference between somebody selling $2 widgets and somebody selling, $200,000 equipment? It's their perception. And we all have those perceptions in our subconscious, in our programming, our inner programming, and things like that and such. So one of the things I did when I first started doing this is I was undervaluing myself, because I wanted to get clients, I wanted to start making money, I wanted to start growing the business and things like that. And then as I got into it and deeper into it, then I started, and almost every client I work with, they want to do that. They want to undervalue themselves. So understanding and learning that for myself and seeing the downside of that, then I can help people to elevate that right from the get-go, coming right out of the gate. But remember, Harry, what took me years to understand and put together into what's now the SMT method takes my clients weeks. So now when we come out of the gate, we can set the value at the true value of it and stuff, rather than undermining
and the right price.
Yes, and I did that for a while, and it hurt me like anybody else doing undervaluing would do that.
Oh,
and so
my
it
God.
forced me to have to make that shift upwardly.
I literally lose millions doing this, because in my first property business, that was a property business. I remember it was the credit crunch, 2008. And then without even, that's also my thinking, the credit crunch hit. And this is what I say to myself. I said, look, I'm going to lower the price of my product because now there is a crisis and not everyone can afford it, and I had to keep the business alive. Guess what happened? The same amount of rooms that I have empty at the expensive price, at the regular price I was selling, now the problem become even worse. I lower the price, so it's less income is coming to the business, and I still have the same amount of rooms empty, even more. And I took a hit, and I lost a lot of money. I took a lot of time to go back. It took a little bit to go back on my feet, and this is what I realized after this process happened, because I had to evaluate why I lost so much money. And I find out that the people that buy on price, they buy because the product is not important for them. For example, if you don't care about shoes, you will buy the cheapest shoes. If you don't care about a car, you will buy the cheapest car. But if car is important for you, you're gonna find a car that have the most value communicated for your money. And look, every car that everybody's driving, definitely you don't see everybody's driving the cheapest car, or you don't see anyone wearing the cheapest clothes or using the cheapest mobile phone. So whatever is important, so I end up by lowering my prices, having the same quality of product, attracting the kind of clients to my business that care less about my product. And that was a very painful position to be there, and still I have the same problem, because my problem had nothing to do with the product. My problem was my lack of capacity to bring new clients, marketing facing the credit crunch, and I lowered the price and the problem is the same. So I have to, until I didn't improve my marketing and increase my capacity to attract clients, the product came. And again, I'm increasing the marketing, but the product's now cheap. So now it's a lot of resistance, because it's a place to live, and people, not the you will be shocked, but people don't want the cheapest place when it comes to live, because this is important for them. They have to make sure they sleep so they can work, that the hot water and everything works. And the cheapest product is not actually communicating, is not resonating what a price to live. So I did learn Joseph this on the hard way. So pricing is a big thing. And again, the entrepreneur, because we don't have experience, our first idea is let's sell cheap so clients gonna come. And this is a big mistake.
I did that, Harry.
Me too.
I did that.
Welcome to the club.
Out.
Everybody does it. Why everybody does it? I did it, you did it, everybody does it. Why?
Well, because we want to get the business rolling, and our mentality is thinking the lesser is better. Even the wider audience I have is better, and things like that. So I started out that way. When I talk about that vision, the first step, getting clarity on who is the ideal client, who's the ideal customers for that, and who do you want them to be, what level do you want them to be, and things like that. I had to go back and do that and hone in onto the area that I serve today, because it wasn't working when I was a free-for-all for anybody that wanted, help with mindset or things like that. I'm laser focused now. I help people in corporate that want to have their own business. I help business owners, and then I help like corporate sales professionals to really scale their business. That's who I serve. If you don't do that, not that I don't have people coming to me like that, but that's my laser focus on the people. So as I get laser focused there, because part of this is marketing too, right? As I get laser focused on that, I start attracting more of those types of people. I start going to events that have more of those people.
Which are the people that you actually can help the most in the first place. And it's the people that you like to work with on the first place also.
Yes.
You're doing a favor to yourself by niches. I always say, the riches are in the niches. The more you
like that.
The more you get laser focused, the more you start to attract this type of people that actually you can help the most. But I guess that, Joseph, there is no business school, there is no become an entrepreneur school. I think that And even if I come and I will tell you, yeah, that's the other thing as well, the ego of the entrepreneur, because there is also a lot of resistance we find into the founders that when you say, hey, you see, I have a great mentor for sales, Joseph, he's amazing. I have a lot of experience. He worked with a lot of entrepreneurs. He definitely can help you to increase your sales so you can hire more people. You can be free. You have time. They are thinking, well, you know what? My business is different and I will figure it out by myself.
Yeah, and
And
I'll give you I'll
they
give a
can.
bonus. Right.
Mhm.
I'll give a bonus number 6 to my 5, okay?
Go for it.
Number 6 was, if you're coming out of corporate, then your programming includes logical, strategic thinking. You figure A, B, and C to get to D, and then all your to-dos and all your exhaustive efforts and everything else and stuff like that. And if it doesn't work, we typically try harder and all that stuff. Entrepreneurship is about a flow. It's
Mm-hmm.
about a creativity as it's happening, as
Mm-hmm.
it's flowing, and things like that. So the strategic thinking only creates more hiccups and heartaches in the whole process. We
Absolutely.
can get into that flow. So every client I work with coming out of corporate, I actually have to help them throttle back a little bit from
Tell
that
me about it.
strategic thinking
Tell
to
me about
lead
it.
their avenue.
The other day I was
And
about to speak in a conference and it was
yes.
somebody giving a conference about critical thinking to entrepreneurs. And
Mhm.
I'm listening to the speaker and he's saying, look, when you have this decision, you need to evaluate this, you have to compare this to this, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, and you have to do all this in order to take a decision. I'm thinking, man, when you're running and starting a business, you have to take hundreds of decisions a day. And if for every decision that the startup founder, it will go to this process, it will never get this done. So it sounds amazing in book, and when you're in a big corporation,
Wow.
uh,
Yes.
that critical thinking is amazing, how you analyze and how you take the decision, how
Yes.
you evaluate things. But let me tell you something, when you're to 0 to 1, this
Yeah. Once you
critical
launch,
thinking
yeah.
theory that coming from a book, forget about it,
Yes.
because you have to you have to do completely the opposite. You have to learn how to decide, have a fast decision and stick with it and make it work
Yes.
whatever it takes and along the way. So yeah, that was really
Yeah.
interesting. I'm seeing the audience, all the startup founders, and these guys coming to deliver this conference like it's coming from the that is the
Yeah.
corporate trainer, the
Yeah.
corporate trainer
Yeah. Well,
that goes
that's,
to a
yeah. And
huge
that works.
corporation and give conference for
Yep.
corporate. And yeah, for that environment, it's amazing. Yeah,
It
because that
works.
big
Yes.
organization with a lot of employees and
Yes.
everything. But don't talk
Yes.
about this to founders because
Right.
it doesn't that comes of critical thinking for conference for corporate have nothing to do with
Oh,
the
those,
critical thinking, Joseph, that an entrepreneur need to do, especially in the 0 to 1
the
when you
same principles
go for
don't
it.
apply.
Yes, I
Yeah, they
agree
just
with.
don't apply to it, you know,
I was there in
and the
the
way,
conference. I was there in the conference. I'm seeing the speaker. I'm seeing the others, and I'm like, am I crazy
yeah,
or this doesn't really make sense? And they say, no, Harry, but this is a great speaker. He's so famous. I said, yeah, great speaker and he's so famous, but it doesn't make sense why he's talking to the people.
right. Right. Yes. Yeah.
So
And entrepreneurs is it's about that moving. It's about making decisions on the roll. It's about doing those things. And that can be really intimidating for a lot of people and hold them back. But we all have that capability inside of us. We just haven't tapped into it. We haven't utilized it. And we have to do some shifting of that corporate programming in order to open that
mm-hmm,
up. And that's what I
mm-hmm,
specialize in doing. And once we open that up, Harry, there's no limit to how much we can do and how fast we can grow
absolutely.
and where we end up, you know, even in a
Absolutely.
year from now with it.
I mean, if you have if you have a job in corporate America or in a corporate job, you totally qualify 100% to be your own boss and your entrepreneur. However, being an entrepreneur is a skill. The more you practice, the better you become. It's like driving a car or swimming. There is no shortcut. I'm glad, Joseph, that you say something. The other day in this podcast, an entrepreneur came and asked me, Harry, what are the fastest uh, path from point A to B? And I say straight line. And the guy told me, no, Harry, it's not a straight line. It's the path with less resistance. Think about the river. So developing the skill of the entrepreneur, this failing and trying again and again and again. Well, this path of resistance, what is happening is you're developing the skill. You are learning how to swim, you're learning how to drive. However, do you know what is the path of less resistance? To have a mentor, to have a coach, to have person that comes next to you and sit next to you and teach you how to drive.
Yes.
The, this
Because
driver
of the mistake.
instructor, this driver
Yes.
instructor, he can drive, he won't be able to drive the car for you. You have to drive it. However, with the instructor, you can get the faster, you can get you can learn some tricks, you can start to discover the path of less resistance. But again, the more that this makes sense, and a lot of people and makes a lot of sense, still entrepreneurs have that ego that they know best, that they know how to, that they can find their own solution. And until they don't surrender that, because again, like you coming from corporate and you are the big deal and you have a lot of people that respect you, and then now you're in business and you're literally nobody until somebody buys your product. So what happened? Why there is so much resistance against business coaching out there?
You know, a lot of it is again the programming that we're taught, you know, that you have to, you know, that you have to figure it out. You know, if you want to, I mean, we used to hear terms all the time. If you want to be successful, you got to be willing to trade off your life, and you got to figure it out, and you got to, you know, dedicate your whole life to it, and that's just not true. It's just not true.
And let me tell you something. This is how the entrepreneurs they hire in the business coach. They go to social media and then they find someone with a big house, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, but probably is rented. They don't even and somebody talking about the shiny objects, and then the entrepreneur is in the social media say, oh, this one's gonna be my business coach, and then things doesn't work, they don't get enough value out of the process, and then coaching it doesn't work.
Right.
These people only
That's a
want my money and everything.
yes.
However,
And that yeah.
go, Joseph, go.
I'm sorry, Harry. I hate to cut you off here, but that's like perfect
tell us. We want to hear from you.
Because that's when I talk about a cookie cutter program or a one size fit all program. You know, that's what those are. Somebody went out and they found their pathway and they said this is success, and they teach other people that pathway. But the pathway never. Do you know people following those programs? Less than 1% of the people following those programs ever achieves anywhere near what the person who built it, because the person who built it found their process.
No, but so also you have to find a mentor specific for what you want to achieve. The other day,
you have to find somebody. Ultimately, it can't be the shortcut of go find someone who has what you want and do what they did. It doesn't work. That doesn't work. So what we have to do is find a path, avenue,
and the right coach.
Identify our pathway.
The other day, a lawyer was here in this broadcast and was telling me, Harry, I was hiding in coach. Yeah, I have a few bad experiences, so I took more time. I took my time. And he is a lawyer, and he was in this broadcast, and then the lawyer was saying to me and say, okay, Harry, first coach that I find, he was really good helping lawyers to go from 0 to $500,000. Well, I cannot work with that person because I'm already over that mark. Yeah. So this mentor, it was no good for me. Now I find another coach that it was very good, taking people from 2.5 million to over 10 million. Well, it was not good for me either. I was in this gap. But Harry, guess what? I found a mentor, a coach that actually specialized in this bit. And it was amazing because the whole business turned around fantastic. And he's doing extremely well, and actually managed to go from this $500,000 to a 2.5 really fast. And he's all over the place. So grateful about this coach, the mentor, talking about the great help that give them all the time. So it's all about, Joseph, again, the same way that you hire your employees, the same way that you hire your team members. When you're going to bring a coach to your organization, what message do you have for our entrepreneurs, our corporate people that want to become entrepreneurs? what they should be looking at when they're gonna hire the right coach or the right mentor for the business?
Yeah, I mean, first off, I would look into like because we talked about a lot on here, but I would look into that as far as what exactly do you want to do, and who do you want to do it for? Who do you want to have as clients? Get clarity around that stuff, and then understand there's going to be a part of your process where you're going to be wearing a lot of hats.
But
Unless
also,
you're
you see, also
unless you're
if you're in corporate, and you want to become an
yeah,
entrepreneur, we be helpful is somebody that can guide you, have been in corporate and now is an entrepreneur.
absolutely,
It will
absolutely,
get to understand you. It
yes.
will understand your challenges.
Yeah. Now I have a lot of clients who come to me and they say, okay, I'm going to quit my job and then start. And I don't suggest doing that. I
Neither
suggest
do
there being
I.
a little bit of a
Neither do I.
transition.
Yes,
When I did
absolutely.
this, I transitioned with 2 clients I was working with, and that was it. But at least gave me the evidence it was working. It was going to work. I could start building some with it and things like that. So I'm not. But what I do is we're going to get so busy in building your business that there's not
Mhm.
going to be time for the corporate job
Can
anymore.
have a business on the side. When I started, I was working in London as a room service attendant in the Hilton when I
Yeah.
started my property business, and I actually find this job in the Hilton because regardless that was room service, is because in this place they were renting rooms. I want to have renting a business where I can rent rooms. So I say, whoa, what a better place to go and learn something about renting rooms than in the Hilton. And I go there and say, well, your English is not good, so you cannot work in the recession, but you know what? You can work in room service. I say, okay, I'll take it. Can I be in the hotel all the time and know everybody and everybody can teach me stuff? Yeah, of course. The room service guy have the key for the whole hotel and everybody had to talk to you. I say, okay, uh, I'll take it.
The having
and
the
and
having
it
the
was a great
assist.
school for me. I had to say the
Yeah.
Hilton. It helped me a lot to learn about procedures and things. A lot that I actually after applying in
Sure.
my business, I did learn a lot. However, I was
Yeah. Things
building
you
the
don't know to look
business
out for.
parallel. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I find a job that I was learning skills and things that actually I'm gonna use in the business that I'm building parallel. And then that's the other thing about mindset. I'm waking up at 4 a.m. going
Yeah.
to work in the Hilton, prepare the breakfast and everything. And I have so, and then I go and build the business. And one day I'm thinking that in the last 2 months I have 2 rooms empty. And these 2 rooms empty, if I rent them, it was like £600 each. Yeah. And I think that in the Hilton they pay me over £1,200 a month, £1,100 back then. And one day I say, oh, hold on a minute. How long is it gonna take me to rent these 2 rooms? One day. What I'm doing working a month
Yeah.
for the same amount of money, and that's the day that I quit.
Yeah.
And didn't
Yeah.
look back, never look back after 17 years. So
Yeah.
go.
Harry, another example I'll give you here is a while back I decided I wanted to hang glide. I
Oh,
wanted to run off a mountaintop with a hang glider. Now,
wow.
I could have went out and bought a hang glider. I know of mountains I could do that, and I could have went out there and I could have ran off it with the hang glider.
Oh
But
my God.
instead, I chose to get some help from somebody and some training
Mm-hmm.
from somebody who has already been through it. So they knew to teach me things I didn't even know to ask about. It's the exact same way when you're going into your own business.
In this
There's so
interview.
many things that are going to come up that you don't know about, that having somebody who's maneuvered that can help save so much time, effort, and money, and possibly even save the business from closing up by
Even
having that assistance.
somebody look in this interview, somebody came and the guy have 40 exits. Can you believe that 40 exits over a million in all those companies? And he told me, Harry, now I live in Colorado and I'm in the real estate business. I said, really? And he told me, I'm doing very well. I started two years ago and I'm doing fantastic. I have a big portfolio now in Colorado. I said, wow, so how you managed to do that? And he told me, really easy. I find a coach, I find a mentor, I pay a lot of money. He taught me everything about that business. and, and that's
I
why
love that.
that's why after 2 years I have a large property portfolio without knowing anything about property. So what it comes that I realized, because somebody that have 40 assets is someone that have pretty much good understanding what it's gonna take to build and grow a business. However, this person is so humble that if he's going to go to a new business that is new for him, He's not gonna go, I can figure it out myself. There is no way
Right.
that I'm paying anyone.
Yes.
No, because he's successful. He have more clear the opposite. He say, who's the best? I don't care how much you
Great.
charge. Who's
Yeah.
the best person in this specific area that can teach me about this stuff?
Yes.
I don't care how much you charge. I just need
Yeah.
to know the inside, the particular specific of this business, and then I will take care of the rest. So
Yeah, I'll tell you a little secret.
go
Within
for
a
it.
year from now, I'm going to be launching an institute to certify other coaches in
Wow.
in my SMT program, because then it'll expand the reach of what my life works has now,
Absolutely.
and even after I'm
Absolutely.
gone from this place, it'll continue on. I have a whole board of people that are going to help me to
Wow.
do that.
That's
I'm
fantastic.
relying on, that I'm paying and everything else, because I haven't done that before, and they have. So then they'll help me to get through those hiccups and things like that, and avoid a lot of expensive pain.
Then one of
By
the
doing it
reasons
that
that
way.
we do this broadcast is exactly so the entrepreneurs out there can see that there are role models out there, that there are people that they're already been through what you are going through right now, and they can help. The only thing that you need to do is surrender this ego and ask for help. The mentor is not going to your business to tell you what to do, because some people, that's what they have in
Right.
the mind. Oh, this guy is coming and now he's gonna become boss and gonna tell me what to do, and I don't want that. No, it's
Yes.
just gonna be with you and create this empowering, this framework for you to accelerate, and also someone that will understand the challenge that you're facing at the moment, because it has been there before. And it doesn't
And
it,
what challenges are up ahead for you
exactly,
as well to
and
help
what
identify.
challenging you
Yes.
what is easy to learn how to drive the car by yourself, or to learn how to drive a car with an instructor next to you?
Yeah.
At the
Right.
end, you're
Right.
driving the car, but way better with an instructor. So thank you so much, Joseph. That has been really powerful. So Joseph, tell us, someone is in love with our conversation. I want to learn more about you, what you do, how people can find you, how this process works.
Yeah, the easiest way for anybody to get a hold of me is they can go to ifgtcoach.com, which is my website. It has everything on there about me and what I do. Or anybody that wants to talk more about this can reach out to me at coachwithjoey.com. Coachwithjoey, one word.com. Schedule a 15, 20-minute conversation. We'll get on there, see where you're at, see how I can help you. And it's not a sales call, it's just to see how I can serve.
And if you're the right fit, that's what makes sense. Joseph,
Yeah,
this has been fantastic. You're brilliant. Thank you so much for joining the podcast. I really appreciate it. And for all of you following the broadcast, see you in our next episode of Unstoppable: How a Brave Entrepreneur like Joseph break that wall and achieve the first million. Bye for now.
Enjoyable conversation.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential, audacious entrepreneurs that overcame challenges and adversity, providing you with the blueprint of how they sold their first million so you can grow your business exponentially.